Good morning. How are you all today? Thank you for viewing with us, and thank you for your prayers and your comments and thoughts that you share with me on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to Bible class with Andre and Betty. We're continuing our studies from 1 Samuel, and we're continuing in chapter 14, beginning at verse 24. And our subject is the same, spiritual warfare. And we'll see how King Saul's approach to the Lord is so different from his son Jonathan's approach by the following lessons that's coming out of this one chapter. So we're at 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 24. And the men of Israel was distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, "Cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I, not you all, but that I may be avenged on mine enemies." He's not concerned about the people except them following his orders. So none of the people tasted any food. So he is admonishing really demanding the people under an oath to not eat anything until he wins the war against the Philistines. Verse 25, and all they of the land came to a wood or to a forest, and there was honey upon the ground. Verse 26, and when the people were coming to the wood of the forest, behold, the honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. So he had made them swear that they would not eat anything. So when they came upon this honey, they could have eaten it and gained strength for the war. But he had told them not to do it, and they feared what he would do if they disobeyed him. So verse 27 gives a contrast between him and his son Jonathan. But Jonathan heard not when his father charged the people with the oath. Wherefore he put forth the end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in an honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. And that's simply he was weak from hunger, and probably his blood sugar had dropped low because of the hunger. And when he tasted the honey, he regained strength. As a nurse, I have seen people who are in a diabetic coma, and you give them, they're still breathing, but if you don't intervene, they'll probably die. But you give them sugar or some sweet substance, and immediately their eyes open. They may be confused, but they're alert. And so this is, he gained strength when he tasted the honey. Verse 28, then answered one of the people and said, thy father straitly charged the people with an oath, saying, cursed be the man that eateth any food this day. And the people were faint, or they were weak and hungry. Now, God never gave a commandment for people not to eat. There is fasting that was not eating any food for so long, but he never told Saul to do this to the people. And when they eat with the blood later on in this chapter, God is not going to kill them because Saul is the one who disobeyed the Lord by not letting the people eat. And so God is not going to charge them for what they did, but we'll see him charge Saul throughout the rest of this book. 29. Then said Jonathan, my father had troubled the land. See, I pray you, how mine eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. And then Jonathan says, how much more, if perhaps or haply the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies which they found. For had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines, if he had allowed you all to eat, then they would have been stronger for the battle. Verse 31. And they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajalon, and the people were very faint. They were very hungry. And because of this, verse 32 says, and the people flew or ran upon the spoil, and took sheep and oxen and calves, and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood. Without even cooking, they ate the animals with the blood. And when they ran upon the spoils, they could have gained that, but they slew enough to have food to eat. Verse 33, then they told Saul, saying, behold, the people sin against the Lord in that they eat with the blood. And he said, ye have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, disperse yourselves, spread yourselves among the people, and say unto them, bring hither every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and slay them here, and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. So he recognized that it was a sin against the Lord, but he's responsible for telling them not to eat. And all the people brought every man his ox with him that night and slew them there. Verse 35, and Saul built an altar unto the Lord. The same was the first altar that he built unto the Lord. Verse 36, and Saul said, let us go down after the Philistines by night, and spoil them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them. And they said, the people said, do whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. So the people were willing to follow him still. Then said the priest, let us draw near hither unto God. So he had built this altar, and now the priest says, let us draw near to that altar and pray to God. So Saul said in verse 37, and Saul asked counsel of God, shall I go down after the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he, God, answered him not that day. So even though he made the altar and approached the priest and asked this petition of God, God did not answer him that time. And Saul said, verse 38, draw ye near hither, all the chief of the people, and know and see wherein this sin had been this day. Verse 39, for as the Lord liveth, which saveth Israel, though it be Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. But there was not a man among all the people that answered him. So he's got killing on his mind, and because the people had eaten the animals with the blood, and he had to find out who's responsible for God not answering him when he asked him, shall we go unto the Philistines or shall we not? But then he said, even if it's my son, he's going to surely die today. But the people answered him not. Then said he unto all Israel, be ye on one side, and I and Jonathan my son will be on the other side. And the people said unto Saul, do what seemeth good unto thee. Verse 41. Therefore Saul said unto the Lord God of Israel, give a perfect lot. Tell us who is responsible. And Saul and Jonathan were taken, but the people escaped. So they are doing a countdown to find out who had sinned against the Lord. And verse 42, and Saul said, cast lots between me and Jonathan my son. And Jonathan was taken. So the lot fell upon Jonathan. Verse 43, then Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what thou hast done. And Jonathan told him and said, I did but taste a little honey with the end of the rod that was in mine hand. And lo, I must die. Verse 44, and Saul answered, God do so and more also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan. But the people are gonna object. Verse 45, and the people said unto Saul, shall Jonathan die, who had wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he had wrought with God this day. So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not. And this was an intervention, divine intervention into this situation. Verse 46, then Saul went up from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. Verse 47, so Saul took the kingdom over Israel and fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab and against the children of Ammon and against Edom and against the kings of Zobah and against the Philistines. And whithersoever he turned himself, he vexed them or harassed them. Verse 48, and he gathered an host and smote the Amalekites and delivered Israel out of the hands of them that spoiled them. And now this is parenthetical, explaining the ancestry of King Saul. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan and Ishuai and Melchishua, and the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn, Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. Verse 50. And the name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. And the name of the captain of his host was Abner, not the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. So Saul's uncle was Ner, and his son was Abner, who will become armor-bearer to King Saul. And Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. And we'll see this explained in chapter 9, verse 1. Verse 52, and there was sore war against the Philistines all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him unto him. And this is the manner of the king that Samuel told the people would happen in the earlier chapters of this story. So we see the difference in this spiritual warfare between Jonathan's behavior and Saul, his father's behavior, and how Jonathan depended on the Lord to win the victory, and Saul depended on himself and what he could get done by doing it his own way, that self-directed way. And self-direction is always unprofitable in the long run. So thank you all for listening. You all continue to like and subscribe and share on YouTube and Facebook. So you all have a great day and a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.